Good morning, friends. Happy Thursday. This is going to be such a better looking episode with just the two of us, Loic, because Anthony Franco has a parent-teacher conference. As I imagine, his priorities, man. He needs to get his priorities in order here. Going to take care of his kids as opposed to talking about cash and runway, etc. So, Loic, as right even before I read the opening, I wanted to tell you a story about my son. He was studying history, and he was studying this guy named Galileo. And he was like, yeah, he was an explorer. I go, no, man, he's just a poor boy from a poor family. It wasn't a great joke. It's just what I came up with last second. I mean, it was okay. Are you?
The beauty is it can only get better from here onwards. So
that's great. There we go. Are you extending your runway or just stretching out your failure? Shocking truth. CB Insights analysis reveals 38% of failed startups cite running out of cash. But the fatal mistake isn't spending too much. It's cutting the wrong expenses at the wrong time. I would agree with that. I was going to say 100% of startups fail because of running out of cash. That's the only real reason you fail, unless you something really going on. When Databox CEO Pete Caputa faced 6 months of runway in 2019, conventional wisdom said slash and burn. Instead, he doubled sales hiring. Revenue grew 300% in 18 months. And the counterintuitive lesson, the right burn accelerates escape velocity. Today on How to Founder, we're talking about managing your runway, a conversation that I'm actually very excited about. I'm Chris Franks. With me today, Loic Potjes. Did I get it right? Potjes. Is it pretty good? Was it close?
All right. Absolutely, Chris. It's amazing for a second attempt.
Coaches high-growth CEOs through the paradox of runway management, a former scale-up CEO who managed 4,000 plus employees and navigated brutal cash crunches across 17 countries. He helps founders distinguish between strategic burn from wasteful spending when survival feels uncertain. Loic, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. I apologize about the bad dad joke. But let's just dive into it. So my first question, I'm looking at QuickBooks. I'm figuring out my runway, starting to see it shrink. I'm getting those night sweats about, well, what's going on here? This thing that I dreamed up. Turns out my pro forma was complete act of fiction. Did not turn out that I sold $1 billion worth of sales in month 3. How do I start to think about this? Do I start to come in? Do I cut costs? Do I invest in other things? Obviously, it's nuanced, but just start helping me figure out how I can think through this problem.
Well, what comes to mind is that really a lot of founders have a brilliant ability to problem solve and move mountains and remove bottlenecks, and that ability should be one, focus on the stuff that's absolutely essential. So the 80-20, what are the 3 to 5 things that are going to truly move the needle in the next few weeks, days, or a couple of months? Once you've got that clear, the second point is, what do I have at my disposal? And so it's not, okay, I need $500,000 to cover the next month or two. That's not the question. The question is, what needs to be achieved in the next 2 months? What do I have once I've paid my staff, once I've paid a couple of suppliers, what's left in the kitty? And that simplifies the equation. I need to do A, B, C with X. Now, with that in mind, do what you're best and go into generative AI and say, okay, I've got frugality, I've got like what are the left field strategies to achieve this next stack in product development, about doing this, about that, in non-obvious ways, non-linear ways, and start ideating for that needle in the haystack. Again, be extraordinarily clear about the 2-3 things you really need to achieve. Be extremely clear of the few rands and cents and euros or dollars that you've got in the kitty, and then map it and look for that 80-20. That's why you're a founder.
Well, I mean, I hear that, but I think one of the problems is that I think everything is critical and I think everything is important. And so I do think that in those moments when through the stress of a shortened runway, you get to moments of really clear thinking, right? It becomes, you start to avoid distractions, start to really focus on those things. But I think that probably one of the things I've done wrong in these scenarios is probably over optimized for optimism, for saying like, oh, we've been down before. We're going to figure this out. We're going to figure out a way through this. And I don't want to get rid of any of my employees. I don't want to shrink any, because then I'm just going to have to regrow, and that's going to be really hard. And is that something you've witnessed? And probably, if you've been around founders, being stupidly over optimistic is something you've witnessed quite a bit.
No, not really, Chris. I'm not witnessing that in my own life more than 5 times a day, I'm afraid.
Right. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I know that everything looks bleak, but we're going to be okay.
Exactly. It's that blue sky, the glass half full, no matter what. But what comes to mind is one specific example. I was chatting and I was coaching a founder in New York the other day. And the problem is framed as, I need a second MVP in the next month or 2. Okay, what does that mean? I need to create an ecosystem to generate of artists and things and videos and all of that. And you can start imagining, and so therefore I need half a bar and so on. But the critical reframing was, okay, what do you need to achieve? You need to achieve IP, a protection right. You need to achieve, okay, how much do you have in the kitty? Not much. Okay. How likely are you to, it's the art of closing doors. How likely are you to raise quick money from the banks or from, not really. Okay, so let's redefine the stuff. You got nothing in the kitty. You got 3 weeks to sort it out, and you need to have it move the mountain. Okay, with that in mind, now what?
Sounds like a Tuesday, right? Like, sounds like that's what founders are made for. Let's go.
But once you reframe the question correctly, then you're good to go, because then we found out, okay, what are the quick non-tactical left field ways to do that? And we started dancing with Gen AI, didn't find Joe in ChatGPT, went into Gemini and then into Claude, and it said, not good enough, do this, do that. Cut long story short, the last question was, what are the apps? If we can create videos that will be good enough, that won't infringe on any IP, and that we can kind of scale on a couple of hundreds of them realistically quickly, that just short bottleneck is good to go, because all the rest he can solve for. Now, what did we find? 5 AI-based app platforms that can achieve that for literally a monthly subscription of whatever it was, $200 or something. Now, finished with the few nights of, oh my God, where will I find $500,000? Because that's the traditional way of thinking. And so the point is the art of reframing the question with your current reality and looking for left field, non-obvious thoughts, actually.
I think that if I'm breaking down what you've said into its component parts, I think that the first thing is about seeing things that are, what is real? Like, in this moment, what is the truth and what is not? And so much of the work that we do as founders is about telling others and then ultimately ourselves stories. And so I've sat with founders, and Loic, I bet you have too, that where they're just like, the thing I have to do is I have to add this feature. And that's really clearly, if I don't add this feature, things are going to go out. And I'm looking at their checking account balance and going, dude, the thing you have to do is to go sell something, right? This feature is not going to make or break your product. Selling something will make or break your company. So how do you personally walk through stripping away kind of all of the noise and just getting really down to what are those core elements? And to your point, you help founders do this. And I do think asking for help is a really good way to do it. But let's say you didn't have help. How would you go through a mental process to say what matters in this moment?
I think what comes to mind is the USP, your unique selling proposal. So one example that comes to mind here is someone based in London, and he's got an app that aggregates all the risks and the new legislation across the world, and tells you as a corporation where your core legislative risks might be. Okay, good. From there on, we go into the discussion, and he wants to have a broader discussion, and I get to, what does your app do? What do you need it? Well, it aggregates to say, okay, but what do I get in my hand? I'm a client. What do I get? Oh, all the but hang on. I'm a busy man. I need to action. So what I need is actionable insights. I don't want 1,000 pieces of legislation. I want the one that's going to screw my company if I'm not aware of it and if I don't have a B plan around it. Can it give that? Oh, no. Okay, stop all the rest and fix that. And it's not about user experience. It's not what does it actually do? What's the one problem it solves? And does it do that? Forget about the whistles and bells. To your point, Chris, go and sell it, pre-sell it, sell it on plan, sell it, whatever the point is. But does it do that? You have the one critical factor. Whistles and bells bring noise. And they detract you from the simplicity of the actual. I love the Domino's pizza thing. So, if it's a pizza, what is it? It's a pizza. If it's hot, you pay. If it's cold, it's on us. Okay, I get that. I don't need to have done. And to your point, it's that. Get to the crystal clear USP. Just focus on that and sell it. The whistles and bells will come later. And again, what I've always used in coding and in managing development teams is this feature going to be useful to 80% plus and not useful? Is it going to be critical for 80% plus of my clients and clients to be yeah or nay? If yes, we'll develop it. But can I sell it tomorrow? Can I sell it? Will my clients pay me more for it? Does it come as an add-on, as an extra module? Does it come how, if you can't prove to me that it will be monetized? And there are simple ways to find out. Ask 20 clients and you say, hey, I'm thinking of developing this. Will you pay $100 or $10,000 more per month for this? Yay or nay? And if the answer is nay, don't do it. And the second point is it's only useful for one client. If it's only useful for one client, then, well, even if the client wants to pay for this, say no, because there's a cost to defocusing.
It's such a obvious approach to building features, but it's something we almost never do in the tech world. So I want to get back to the idea of what is the strategic ways you spend your money and what are not. And so I think it's easiest for us, and I think you started to use this analogy earlier, but so I wanted to press on it, which is money is a tool. It is a lever that we can pull to be able to get outcomes in our business. That, even just that thought is a little bit strange, mostly because we feel like we have some costs and we have to pay employees, et cetera. And so in these moments, we're starting to stare down a diminishing runway. What are those ways that you start to think about what levers they can pull? So obviously sales is one, right? We want to generate more revenue. Generating more revenue, I think, is always should be at the top of the list. But let's go to the other side of the equation, which is now we have these other expenses here. How do I start to determine whether or not those expenses are actually levers or are they just draining my resources?
Yeah, that's a good point. So first, we should always. It's way easier to not create an expense than to have to kill it later. And so there are thousands of ways in which not to create a long-term overhead. So the worst business models is where you have cyclical revenue and fixed overheads. That's the word. Like if you can have fixed annuity-based revenue and flexible overheads, happy days. And so can you get on an 80-20? I love this ratio, by the way. Can you get 80% of your overhead flexible? Shared office space, externalized resources for development, externalized back office, automation of key processes. Automation of key processes was already great a few years ago with all sorts of Zapier and Zoho automation, whatever. But now with AI, even a 12-year-old kid can come into your business and tell you, oh, poor dude, let me automate your back office for you. Can I show you how? It doesn't require NASA scientists. So essentially, keep your overhead flexible, 80% of it, and it sounds completely crazy, but you start with putting your overheads on a list from biggest to smallest, and you crack the 3 to 4 to 5 biggest, and you say, ideally before you make that commitment to the overhead, but if you have, then can you switch to flexible, and how does it look like, by when, and what cost to make that happen, and how does it not kill my business in the doing? So what's the contingency plan? Once you've done that, you can weather a few storms, I think, and you can then quickly disengage flexibly as you need to.
It's such a great point. And I think that it's funny for people like you and I, that idea of flexibility, I almost don't even think about it consciously anymore. It's almost just an instinct. Like signing a year-long contract for anything feels terrible for me. Signing our co-working space we just moved into, we signed a 6-month commitment. We're going to be fine. We have plenty of runway for 6 months, but even a 6-month commitment, I'm like, whoa. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in 3 months, right? You have no idea, and you're dealing with so much uncertainty as a founder. The idea that you're committing to another company that you're going to be paying them something a year or 2 years from now is bananas. Like, you have no idea what's going to happen a year or 2 years from now. And so I think that concept of trying to be flexible is so critical, but I want to poke on that a little bit, which is the vast majority of our expenses is around human beings. And human beings, there's conventional wisdom here that says contractors, while more flexible, are not as committed. You're not going to have that same idea of really, they're my team and we go and we're together in this thing. To what degree does that flexibility exist with your human costs?
So I think you'd have to define what is unique and exceptional that you want in-house, which might be your core team around you, and you want them dedicated 200%, and you want them to carry and if they're aligned to the longer term objectives, be it in a shareholding scheme or whatever, they might be aligned as well on taking haircuts in difficult periods and then taking a bit of a bonus in better periods. So, but on what's absolutely core and critical, function in-house. But also on the core guys, on the core then critical brains, a key question is, do you need them full-time or part-time? Because one thing is to forge ahead 12 hours a day. Another thing is to have access to an expert for certain things on a regular basis, which does not mean that you need them full-time. And that, for example, means for expertise, managerial brains, in-house, core, strategic. Expertise brain can be tapped into by the hour. on certain platforms, find an expert, or you can have fractional, a day a week, 4 days a week, whatever, and you can build that flexibility because expertise. Once you got enough for the next runway, you could cut that and restart again. Then the non-core should be automated as much as possible, so back office and all of that. And where you need people, when it's non-core, you don't really need them internally. And there are ways to, it's like working with developers. You think that because they're on your payroll, you're going to manage them better. I found a founder, wanted everything in-house. I said, but how do you manage these guys? What's the ticketing system? What's the priority? What's the daily huddle? He didn't have the answers. That means he's paying for a fat overhead of guys who are picking their noses all day long and working a bit once in a while. But in an external supplier that's organized with all the SLA system platforms that track it would be 20 times more efficient. You just need to have the right counterpart in-house to know what are the key questions to ask for, how to control and check, and how to manage that. And even that brain doesn't need to be full-time at times.
I think it's such a great point. I want to go one more layer down here, which is because this is the piece where you and I have probably both been there, which is you're staring down a runway that is shrinking. You've lost, maybe you thought you were going to get a deal, maybe you thought you're going to get a round of investment, and for whatever reason, it didn't pan out to the way that you wanted it to. And you're looking at this and saying, okay, we're coming into Q4 now. Q4 sales slowed down. And realistically, I don't know. Things are looking a little bit bleak here. So I got to start making some hard decisions. And I've gone through and I've cut all the obvious expenses. Now I got to start looking at humans. How do you determine? And I love these guys. I hired them. I hired these girls. I want them around. And in a lot of cases, I feel responsible for them and their family, etc. This is that really tough spot. How do you start to think through it? And again, probably getting some help here is a good idea. But if you didn't have any help, how would you start to determine those decisions?
Yeah, I think it's critical. First, anything you do needs to be socially responsible. If you need to let go of people, you do that in a human way, in a respectful manner, in an ethical manner. The second critical point is your first job is the future of your business. And that comes before your responsibility, because you do have one, over every single one of your employees. And what I mean by that is, if you're sitting with, let's say, a small startup, 50 employees, okay, on those 50 employees, you determine that you need to cut 10. It would be irresponsible of you to risk the future of the 50 by risking to have to turn off the lights because you couldn't get to that decision. It's not socially responsible. That is crazy. You're killing your business for the sake of it. It's actually not being a nice guy, however well-meaning you are. So the way you look at it is a couple of quick ratios. You look at your runway, how many months? Then you have three scenarios: best case, medium case, and worst case. You throw best case and medium through the window, and you look at worst case.
Right, exactly. Because best case, I've never built a pro forma that best case has ever happened, ever.
Yeah.
Like, some aggressive pro formas.
Then you look at your worst case and how many months of runway you have. Then you look at the next liquidity event. How long? Be it clients, be it banks, be it investors, whatever that is. And then you look at the gap, because it costs you money to also let go. So get out of that lease, sell some assets, let go of people in a socially responsible manner. You need a pot of gold for that too. So runway plus pot of gold, less new runway. So either you have a liquidity event at a later stage, or you need to have brought your overheads 20% at least lower than your current income. It's one of the two, liquidity or 20% lower. Okay, and then you need to factor in the time it takes to let go. It's not overnight. It's hard decisions. It's like sometimes it's making people work from home instead of in the office, or whatever the case may be. So back to the basics. How long your runway? Then, is there a liquidity event, or if not, what's the ratio? What's the number that you need to get under your current revenue? Then you make your choices on who needs to go, and what's the pot of gold needed to do that in a responsible manner, and what's the time frame for that. Let's say 3 months. If your runway is 6 months, 3 months, well, 6 months less 3 months, you've got actually 3 months. In 3 months, you must have started the process. And if you can meet your worst case scenario and still be alive, then you're doing well. And the last principle is, you avoid at all costs the death by 1,000 cuts. You don't restructure one person this week, another one next month, another one next month, thinking that let's limit the damage, because you're inflicting huge damage on your company, on the staff morale, because the only thing in life that anyone talks about now is who's next? Is it me? And then inevitably the good guys and the best guys go find themselves another boat to go and navigate, and you're left with the ones you don't want to be left with. And so if you cut once, you cut deep enough, and then no more. You stabilize the ship.
Hopefully that cut is deep enough, right? I think that's always the one to think about. So the thing that was striking me is, we're both from the South. You're from South Africa. I'm from Texas. Pretty much the same place, I think. I mean, just different continents. But in Texas, we have, it's like a dog taking a pill. And so if you're trying to take a pill and you're trying to give it to a dog, you know how the dog just will look away and just pretend it doesn't exist. I think that there's an element I just wanted you to touch on of, as a founder, it's really so much easier for me to go turn my attention to something that is not about my runway and my cash flow and whether or not I'm going to have to lay people off. How did you set that discipline? I mean, some of us have boards we have to answer to, but a lot of us are just sitting there by ourselves going, hey, I got to at least once a month sit down and look and be really calculated on what's going on with my cash flow and my runway. Did you do that monthly? Did you do it weekly? Did you do it daily? How would you recommend we do it?
So if you're, as a founder, and it's often the case, are a glass half full blue sky guy, don't try and pretend.
We're not overly optimistic. I just think the best, it's always going to happen. It's fine.
So the thing to avoid is to think that we can turn ourselves overnight into the hard-ass penny pincher and counter. It's just not going to happen. We're fooling ourselves. So the only question that matters is who on your team is going to come and kick your ass at regular intervals to show you a bleak reality. I had when I was on a corporate intrapreneurship, so scaling in fact, that was the company with 4,000 employees. I had a CFO who was a systematic glass half empty guy. He could see the risk where it didn't exist. It used to drive me crazy. Not as much as I drove him crazy with my blue sky, silly ideas, until I realized this guy is precious. He's going to tell me when to stop, what steps not to take, and he's going to show me clinically why. So I can't argue anymore. And he's going to come and kick my ass if I don't. And so his name is James. So the question is, who's your James? Who's going to come and kick your ass at what intervals and force you to listen? And so that's the power of complementarity. So when you're the evangelist, the founder, the guy who's going to go move the mountains, you need the guy holding the fort. And that's a different skill sets, and you need that. And if you can't, and if you're alone, and that's you in the startup, you need a mentor, you need a board member, an investor, a mate, a buddy, a neighbor, your wife. Someone needs to come and kick your backside at those intervals and hold the purse for you.
I mean, it's funny. It's like sometimes, and we've said this on the show, is like startups can be cults. We can just start to believe just this line of bullshit that is absolutely untrue, but collectively we believe it. And somebody comes from the outside, comes in and goes, "What are you guys doing?" None of like you have to look at the actual truth here, not be the dog with the pill, and continue to turn away from it. It's such a great point. So last point, then we'll move into speed round but just to double down on this. I don't have a board of directors. I don't have a CFO. Where do I find the person who is going to be your James, is going to be your bad guy that comes in and tries to give you the cold reality while you're being blue sky optimist?
So it's simple personality testing. These things are personality traits. To the same tune that you're going to move mountains, you're going to solve problems, you're going to conceptualize. This guy has an attention to detail. He's consistent, reliable, precise. He is, and so all of those are personality traits. So millions of personality assessments online. You have AI-based scraping of internet telling you, hey, Chris has got this personality, Loic has got that personality. So that's an easy check that everyone can do. Where will you find them? They are there around you. So again, it's either your investor, your board member, your childhood mate, your wife, your neighbor. It doesn't matter. Just find someone who can do these checks. It can be your externalized accountant. It can be, but you need to set yourself that check, and you need to make sure it's a brain. And if that guy, here's the litmus test. If that guy doesn't irritate you every month, then you've picked the wrong guy.
I'm just thinking I love my current fractional CFO. He's just grumpy all the time. It just is like, really? This is going to be, you think you're going to do this in revenue? I'm like, sure. It's great. He's like, yeah, let's cut that by 50%. Which is probably more correct. All right. Are you ready for the speed round? Speed round. I'm just going to ask you a series of questions. Just answer first thing pops into your head, or answer that's a stupid question, which most of these probably are. All right. You have 3 months of runway left. Do you double down on sales and discounting, or do you hold the line to try to get that one big sale in the door?
Double down on sales.
Shrinking cash, cut product development 50% to preserve burn, or accelerate feature builds to hit revenue milestones?
No accelerating any feature build unless a client has already prepaid for it or committed in writing.
I like that as well. Yeah. And with maybe some sort of skin in the game, probably. Expensive channel with proven unit economics, or cheap channel with uncertain payback period?
It depends on which product you're launching to the market, actually. And I would go for quick economics of the sales cycle, how long it takes to buy, and I would need 5 more ratios to answer that.
All right, fair enough. This is probably the best of the speed round questions. You have 6 months runway. Do you raise money now at maybe some crappier terms, maybe a down round, maybe not the valuation you wanted to hit? Or do you hang on to try to get that better valuation, that next little bump up?
I will hang out, but only if I have a B plan. If I've externalized my money, if I've my overhead, if I've gone frugal, if I've got a firm B plan, first plan, then extend. No plan, don't extend.
I think this has been a very good conversation. I'll tell you what I learned. Number one is focus on what matters. How does the how does the expense line item generate revenue? Mapping expenses directly to revenue generation, I think, is a great way to look at it. Start by determining what matters. It's easier to create an expense than to kill expense. Be very cautious about what expenses you create. We talked a lot about this, but I think it's such ingrained in being a founder. Create flexibility. Try to get 80% of your overhead flexible. I've never used that ratio before, but I really like that. I'm going to keep that. Look to contract for expenses and fractional resources to increase that flexibility. This is something I don't think we talk about nearly enough, but you said it incredibly well. Your number one responsibility is to the business. If you're there, businesses are here to create good in the world. The business has to be alive for that. And that means that sometimes you have to sacrifice, even if your best friend is the person you have to lay off. Sometimes, or the person whose wife's pregnant, or the person who is just about to take vacation. The number one responsibility is to the business. It is not about you being the good person all the time. Avoid death by 1,000 cuts. Make big decisions. If you're going to cut big, cut deep, cut painfully, because the 1,000 cuts will always just bleed you dry. And then find someone to be the bad guy. Critical. I really like that. And I think sometimes maybe with a group of founders, you could rotate that job. Just be like, all right, this month I get to be the good guy and you have to go and be the pessimist. Be the pessimist in the room. Deep dive resources, venture deals, be smarter than your lawyer and venture capitalist by my buddy Brad Feld and Jason Mendelson. Scaling Lean, mastering the key metrics for startup growth by Ash Maria. Sorry, I butchered that one. But none of that really is what we're going to go do. We are going to go to disruptiveleap.com and connect with you, where we'll find what? What are we going to find on this awesome website, and how can we connect with you and unlock some of your wisdom?
So on my second midlife crisis, I became a CEO coach, a scale-up coach. And so, and with my ADHD brain, I get to these conceptual things and so on and so forth, and the power of clarity. And so anyone who is in a CEO scale-up role, feel free to get on the website. You'll see testimonials, a little bit of articles and whatever, but you'll see a WhatsApp number, an email, book a chat, and let's engage.
That is terrific. One more, because I wasn't looking at our notes. Joe says, been watching for 4 minutes and already pulling real nuggets away. Clearly that's you, because there's no nuggets that he was pulling from my dad jokes and asinine questions. So congrats, good stuff. So thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. It's one of these ones that we really like to have on How to Founder, because we love working with founders. We think that you guys are amazing. We think that you are the people that matter most in our society, that you're the ones that create value. If you're liking what we're doing, go hit a like, hit a subscribe, follow us, get more dad jokes and smart things from smart guests like Loic. And we will see you next week and on another episode. Yeah, we'll probably also have two of us back. And Stephanie comes back late next week from her trip around the world to Greece, and she's going to tell us all about it. So have a great weekend, everybody. Go out there and get it.